Hey guys, this is Blue Forest. I hope you're doing well. So today we're going to go over alliance missions. I get a lot of questions about AMs, and so I want to give you a bit of a strategy guide. We're going to go over the current map and mods. I want to talk about recommended bots and teams to use. I want to talk about difficulties, getting yourself into an alliance, when it's time to think about a higher difficulty, the challenges of AMs, particularly at higher levels, item use, the daily missions, and the reward structure as well. So a bit of everything. Okay? I want to start by highlighting the fact that we are going to be getting a new AM map at some point this year. So this is a screenshot of the roadmap that was released in early February. It did contain one sentence about alliance missions. This was not specific. It was actually pretty vague, and that's fine. But what they said was that they want to adjust the map to be shorter so that they can regularly mix up the bots alliances will be facing off against. Now that's very good news. We've had the same map for 2 years now, but we don't know when it's coming. A lot of people thought it might come with the anniversary. That has not happened. So whether it comes in 2 weeks or 6 months, we just don't know. And so we have to use the map that we have. I will say, though, that once they do release the new map, I am very excited for it. But even though they are going to change the bots and all of that, and it will feel fresh, I highly doubt they will significantly change the mods just because they rarely do. If you look at what they do with time slides, they're constantly recycling mods. So I would expect a lot of very similar types of mods on the new map, unless they just really surprise us. But I would expect to have, evade lanes, armor lanes, power flow lanes, things like that, right? So anyway, bearing that in mind, let's take a look at the map. This is a screenshot of the map. You can find this on Discord or, ask a friend. It's very handy to have. And so, as you probably know, you have a left and right side. You generally do end up playing primarily on one side. The current map has 46 bots, so 44 total plus 2 bosses. So you've got 22 on the left, 22 on the right, and then the main bosses, OGM and Necro. And so let's take a look at the left side first. The left side is very brawler heavy, so you have the majority of the brawlers in the game. It's a very tanky side, and the mods are also very melee based and kind of tanky. A lot of defensive mods like the armor path, the repair path, the psycho resist path, things like that. So there's a lot of mods that fit those very tanky, strong bots. The right side, by contrast, is very scout-focused, so most of the scouts in the game. It's also evade-focused, lots of evade lanes, and ranged lanes, like range damage, range shock, things like that, okay? So in terms of which side is harder, honestly, that doesn't really matter because it's all about which side you're doing, where you're more experienced, the bots that you're using. In general, people would probably say the right side is a bit harder just because there are so many evade lanes and evade bots. And, there's only a few real anti-evade bots that you can use against them in this game. You can use the unfazed mastery, but that only helps to, some extent. And, evade bots are really tricky. It's easier to get tripped up. It's easier to get caught, to get tagged. So the right side is probably a little bit harder. I would say it is, even though I've been playing the right for a long time. But again, it doesn't really matter. It's all about choosing a side and playing it well, right? If I were to go back to the left side tomorrow, I probably wouldn't do very well, okay? So I would not make a decision about which side you do based on what you think will be easier at first. It's just about trying it out and practicing and getting really good at one side. And this will probably remain true, by the way, when the new map comes. So I do want to talk about recommended bots, okay? So there's a bunch of bots on both sides that do very well, that are the most efficient to use. You can use any bot you want. Any bot that you play well with is the most important thing. But there are some bots that do particularly well against some of these opponents and mods. The first, obviously, is going to be Tronus, okay? Tronus is built for these kinds of fights. He can do almost everything. He can heal. I can tell you that at high-level AMs, virtually everyone uses him, right? So even many of the best players in the game, most of them are using Tronus. I generally don't like using Tronus in A lot of other game modes, I don't think it's a good idea to over rely on him, but AMs are one game mode that I use Tronus in every day because he's just so effective. But putting aside Tronus, if we start with the left side, I want to highlight a handful of bots. So we'll start with OGM and OGP. Okay, these are two of the best bots for the left because you obviously want a very strong armor breaker. You've got lots of tanky bots, lots of brawlers, and you have paths like the armor path where you have Ultra Magnus and Grinder on a very powerful armor mod. So having a very reliable armor breaker and a bot like OGM who can steal those buffs, and OGP who can apply permanent armor break and do huge damage, things like that, those two bots are super effective. Another two bots I want to mention are TC and Grim. Having a Purifier, super important. TC is probably the most widely used among experienced players, but Grim can work as well. You've got lots of bleed bots, you've got shock bots, and of course, you need to have someone to handle Bone Crusher because Bone Crusher, if you're not using a Purifier, he can end up killing you even if you have a perfect fight with all those bleeds that he will inflict. So TC and Grim, very useful. I also want to mention Wheeljack and Prowl, who are widely used on both sides. So Wheeljack, kind of like Tronus, layer of protection. He's got his shields, he's got his healing, he's got his debuffs. I will say that particularly for higher level AMs, if you want to use Wheeljack, you really want to have Nano Repair activated because those shields will last significantly longer. I do know a lot of people who use Wheeljack specifically for AMs, and they do have the Nano Repair mastery unlocked. It just makes him a very safe choice. And then Prowl. He's the most effective and easiest power controller to use in the game. You have a power flow lane on the left. You have other bots where power control is just always going to be important because you do not want to end up eating a special or certainly allowing any of these bots to get to a special 3. Prowl is the most widely used scout on either side for that reason. Now, beyond that, there's a handful of other bots that I've seen used to great success that some people will definitely swear by. Ultra Magnus is one of them. He's extremely tanky. He can certainly save you if you start to get into trouble, and he's an armor breaker. Nemesis is a bit of an outlier, but I do know people that use him even at D100. He's more of a specialty bot, but there's a lot of brawlers on this lane. He can do very well with the copying of buffs and so forth. Cheetor can be a very good choice, particularly for the repair lane on the left, because that Scorponok and Ratchet lane, those can be insanely long fights if you don't have something like Cheetor's repair block, and of course Cheetor is immune to power drain, which can be effective. Shockwave is a bot that can be effective for the left or the right. He also has repair block, but he also has power control, and he heals. If you have a decent SIG Shockwave, he will heal sometimes. And MV1 is a good choice for either side. He obviously heals from bleeds, and you have plenty of bleed bots throughout the map. He's tanky, he's got armor, he's got melee buffs, and he's easy to use. Another one I've seen used with great success on either side would be Scorp, because his dazed ability is excellent, very strong defensively. His backfires are great, especially in the higher level AMs where the fights are longer. You can get great backfire damage, and he also heals. Healing bots in general will get extra mileage in AMs. It just helps you to last longer and conserve your items. One specialty bot that some people will use on the left is Scout B because of his shield break. That Rhinox fight is incredibly annoying. If you don't have a Purifier like TC, Scout B is one option that some people will use in order to break those shields because Rhinox's shock damage can be so significant. Okay, so those are the primary bots that I think are probably the most efficient. Okay, like I said, you can use any bot you want. It's about the bots that you play well with, but those are some of the most effective bots for the left. Okay, taking a look at the right. Okay, well, Drift and Hot Rod can have really good currency on the right because there are just so many evade lanes. Hot Rod is the most reliable anti-evade bot. Drift's is pretty good as well, so you will see people use them. I will say, though, that at high levels, Necro gets a lot of attention. His anti-evade is not good. However, people like to use him because you pair him with Tronus. He gets those Titan charges with the synergy. He gets to overwhelming power more quickly, and Necro can obviously do very large bursts of damage, and he has some nice defense with his power rate down, things like that. So Drift, Hot Rod, Necro are bots that I certainly see on the right. Also, like the left, of course, Wheeljack and Prowl. Wheeljack for his safety net and Prowl for his power control can do very well against two of the most dangerous bots on the right, namely Blaster and Galvatron. You also can do very well with OGP. Less so OGM, just because there are less really good buffs to steal on the right. But people do like to use OGP because, again, he has these huge bursts of damage. He armor breaks. He moves pretty quickly. He's got good mobility. Shockwave as well. Power control, healing, things like that. And I also want to mention, by the way, TC. Or Grim, but specifically TC. Because one thing that people forget is that the right actually has a lot of DOT bots. Okay? And actually it has as many or more than the left side. And people forget this. Because you have major bleeders like Windblade, RC, Cheetor, Bludgeon. But you also have a ton of shock bots because you have a fair amount of techs on the right. And you also have, ranged mods that can do increased damage. So bots like Shockwave and Jetfire, Mirage, Blaster, one or two stacks of shock at high levels can do crazy damage. So some people will use a bot like TC or even Grim on the right, even just as backup if you need a purifier. And then, of course, MV1 is also used by some people on the right. And then the one specialty bot that I do want to mention is Cyclo. Right, so some people use Cyclonus specifically for Motormaster because Motormaster is always annoying, but he's also on that very powerful melee-based mod. And so you don't have to use Cyclonus against Motormaster, but he just makes everything easier, okay? So those are the bots that I would highlight for the right side. But I just want to stress a final time, it is all about who you play best with. So if you play best with somebody that nobody else uses, that is totally fine. I am maybe the only person in very high level AMs who's using a rank 6 SIG 100 Soundwave. Nobody uses Soundwave. But I've been using him forever. I do well with him, and his shield does very well against those ranged mods on the right. So it's all about who you play well with. With that said, I would think about the bots that I mentioned, and also always be thinking about synergies. Anything that you can do to get your attack rating up, armor up, all that stuff will be very, very useful in AMs. So with that said, I want to talk about getting into an alliance and initial considerations regarding difficulties, okay? So, first of all, when you're starting out, this is obvious, but it's very important to mention. If you're not in an alliance, get yourself in an alliance. This is a very AM-focused game, and you're missing out on major rewards and many of the best rewards in the game if you are not in an alliance. That is very, very important. On top of that, AMs are, besides LOC, AMs are probably the best training ground in the game. You will become a better player if you play AMs and if you challenge yourself. You want to be getting into an alliance that's maybe doing 20s to 30s early on. If you don't have a large roster yet, it can be difficult at first, but you ask around and you can ask on Discord. I know that there are some lower level teams that are recruiting, and you will find somebody who will take you. It'll just be very good for you to do. Once you reach a point to where you're a mid-level player, okay, you've got a sizable enough roster that you can start to increase your level, I would highly recommend that you get yourself into a team that is earning rewards from the event that's going on right now, and that is Bot Battle, okay? Because Bot Battle happens every other week, usually twice a month, and this is important because you start earning T4C, right? And a lot of mid-level players end up hitting what's called the rank 4 wall, where you end up having a lot of rank 3, rank 4 bots, but it's very hard to rank 5 anyone because you can't get T4C. So if you're struggling to explore the prime time slides, things like that, getting into an alliance that earns Bot Battle shards, very helpful. It's slow going, but it will add up. If you want to be in a team like that, you will generally want to find a team that is doing D51 plus and is, if not exploring, at least completing and killing Necro every day, okay? There are teams doing high 40s who can get Bot Battle shards because you do get points from arenas, but the safest choice is difficulty 51 plus so that you start earning that T4C. It is very important, okay? Now, once you're at that mid-level, okay, a lot of players end up in a position where they kind of get stuck in mid-level AMs, meaning particularly between 50 and 70. You will find that there are tons of teams doing 50s and 60s. And this is partly because once you get above 70 and particularly above 80, the opponents become significantly stronger and more powerful, and things get a lot more difficult more quickly. So the difficulties scale once you get to high-level AMs. But I want to talk a little bit about when it's time to get to a higher level, okay? Well, the first thing to think about always is your own gameplay, and particularly related to item use, okay? So if you're an alliance doing, let's say, 50s, you are generally going to be in a pretty good place if you're able to take out a reasonable amount of bots without burning through items. Most teams will want you to do at least an average of 6 to 8 bots a day. You don't have to do 12 or 15, but if you're able to take out 8 bots most days without burning through a ton of items, you're in good shape. Once you get to the point to where AMs start to feel easy, you're able to take out more bots, and particularly if you're using few or no items, then you are definitely ready for higher levels. If you've explored LOC2 without spending thousands of energon, and certainly if you've done LOC3 at all, you are certainly ready for higher levels. Because a lot of players, like I said, they get stuck between 50 and 70, either because they just want it to be casual and they don't want to be challenged, which is fine if that's what you want. But a lot of players, I think, are just scared to go higher because they see that the attack ratings and everything of the bots is much higher, and so they think they can't do it. But the fact is, there are a lot of very good players doing 50s and 60s who could easily go higher, okay? If you want to go to D70 plus, you do need to be a very good player. I mean, you need to have your dodging game down because you will end up getting destroyed in the first room if you don't know what you're doing. But you don't have to be an amazing player. You don't have to be one of the best players in the game, okay? I am not one of the best players in the game, okay? I've gotten to a point to where I am very good. I do know what I'm doing, but there are certainly plenty of players better than me. And I'm now at a point where I'm doing, D95 to D100, okay? And I've only been playing this game, by the way, for a year and a half, okay? I started in late 2020. I'm not one of the long-time veterans. And I've gone from D40s to D90s in about a year, okay? And that's just because I'm serious about it and I love it and I've worked hard at it. And so you don't have to be the greatest player in the world. You just have to be good enough so that you can take out some bots without, driving yourself crazy or getting totally smashed, okay? And I would encourage you to do that because, like I said, it's a brilliant training ground. And the rewards are also going to get a lot better. And even though it is harder at high levels, you will adapt, okay? And so I do want to talk about the attack ratings and the AI of the higher level AMs. So once you get up to 70, 80 plus, the AI does get more intelligent. That is true. They get a little bit smarter. They get a little bit faster. They're better at backing you into a corner, things like that. However, even D100 AMs do not have the most advanced AI in the game. The most advanced AI is in LOC3, and strangely enough, in the Titan daily mission on the left side. So if you do the left lane, the hard lane of the Titan mission, that is on very advanced AI. It's very strange that it's that way, but if you play that lane, it's super annoying. The bots are crazy fast. They do things that a human can't do. It's very hard to hit them. It's just a very annoying mission for that reason. But for whatever reason, it is there. That's the most advanced AI. That and LOC3. The AI in high-level AMs is smart, but it's a bit easier. It's not as advanced as that. The reason people get very scared of high-level AMs, though, is because of the health and the attack rating of the bots. Because, like I said, it does scale significantly at the highest levels. So I want to show you a couple of screenshots here. This is Jetfire at D100, all right? I fight this guy often. He is at about 300,000 health and a 25,000 attack rating or so. This is Mini Boss Cheetor, nearly 300,000 health, but over 31,000 attack. Now, these are astronomical attack numbers, okay? Way higher than anything else in the game. The LOC3 bots, the attack ratings are about 7,000. The Act 4 Necro boss is similar. So these are far higher than that. And so yes, it might seem scary, okay? And even at D90 or D80, these are going to be very high attack ratings. What that does mean is that you can be killed super easily, right? A few basic melee shots or range shots, a single heavy, certainly a single special can definitely kill you even from 100%. That's true. However, adaptability is very important. And so if you're going to increase in difficulty, whether you're going to go very high up to D90 or D100, or if you're going to go from 50 to 70 or something like that, if you're going to do any sizable jump, I highly recommend that you give it about a month. Give it at least several weeks, because the first week will probably feel very difficult, but you'll probably get better pretty quickly as long as you're taking it seriously, okay? I have certainly done that, and I have made some big jumps, right? Really hard for the first week or two, but then I got better, and you certainly can too. That is really important to bear in mind, okay? So I want to talk about a little bit about considerations and the challenges of AMs, particularly once you're getting to AMs that are hard for you. So whether you want to get up to D100 or you're just jumping up to a higher level, particularly though, if you are going to the highest levels, there's a few things to think about. Number one is that you're going to have to play patiently and carefully, right? So high level AMs are about being patient, not being hyper aggressive, because look, AMs are teamwork. They're collaborative. They are not about showing off. They are not about plowing through the map yourself. They're not about being stubborn and burning 10 items on one bot when you can just let somebody else do it, right? They're about fighting cleanly and efficiently so that as a team, you can complete the map. That's very important to remember at all times, okay? But the thing is that in high-level AMs, there are a few things to think about. Because of the fact that you can die very easily, number one, you are going to have bad days like anybody, right? Even the best players have bad days. That's just how it is. Number two, you're going to have to be willing to grind for items, because the regular alliance crystals that you get once a day have pretty awful rewards for the most part. The better rewards, the kits that we get from the raid store, are good, but you're only getting a few of them a week. If you want those better kits, particularly the squad kits, because those 5 to 10% kits don't do much in high-level AMs, you're going to have to grind that Titan mission. And if you only explore the Titan mission once a day, you're only going to get a few of those elite alliance crystals and a few revives. It's not much. So if you want to amass a lot of those elite alliance crystals and a lot of the standard revives, you've got to grind it quite a bit. It's very time consuming, it's boring, it kind of sucks, but it's necessary because, like I said, even the best players do end up needing some items, and you do not want to end up spending energon for items because they are crazy expensive, and you also don't want to run out of items and then let your team down. So you do need to be thinking about that, and you also need to be thinking about the fact that all of the common mistakes, but also tech issues and glitches in the game have an outsized effect in difficult AMs, meaning things like air punching, range shots going through opponents being able to block specials at the end of combos, things like your finger slipping, things like crashing, things like freezing, right? The things that are not a big deal in easy fights have a much bigger effect on you in higher level AMs, and it almost always means you're dead. And so you have to just accept the fact that those things will happen and just move on from them, because you don't want AMs to be stressful. This is a game, you're doing it for fun, you're doing it for enjoyment, but you have to remember that those things will happen occasionally, and so you have to be able to deal with them, okay? And so with that said, I want to talk about rewards, okay? So I talked about bot battle, but I want to talk a little bit about rewards in general, because like I said, you want to be in an alliance that's exploring as much as possible. It's actually better to be in an alliance doing a slightly lower difficulty that's exploring than being in a higher difficulty where they're not, right? Because with exploration rewards and completion rewards, you're getting different rewards, and they add up very fast, right? So for completion, you're getting bot chips, T4B and T3C. For exploration, you're getting the Fortress Crystals, Titan Fragments, and T3A. You're going to want both of these, and they're just way better if you're exploring. And I also want to focus just a little bit on rank, because this is one thing that I really feel Kabam should overhaul when they come out with a new map. They should improve the rewards, but they should also add more tiers. Because here's the thing about the rewards, is that below rank 50, the rewards are remarkably similar, meaning the team that ranks 100 are getting pretty much the same rewards as the team ranking 200. That's a problem. On top of that, the brackets are far too broad. So it does not make any sense that the team that ranks 76th is getting the same rewards as the team ranking 125th, because the team ranking 76th might be doing a difficulty 20 levels higher than the team doing 125 or something like that, right? So what I would like to see them do is add more brackets after the top 10. The top 10 are fine, but then I would like to see them add brackets of 10, so 11 to 20, 21 to 30, and so on, up to 100. Because the top 100 teams are the most active teams. They are mid-level to high-level teams. And adding more brackets would increase competition and incentivize teams to try to go higher. A lot of teams don't even attempt to do higher rank because these ranking brackets are so broad, they feel it's impossible. I would also like to see them add things like T4C to a few more brackets and maybe make the rewards a little bit better, especially for mid-level players, because we need players to stick around. We need players to do well. It shouldn't only be the top teams. The top teams should get the best rewards, but it shouldn't only be the top teams, because most players are never going to play or even want to play for a top 10 team. All right? But with that said, I also want to mention that once you get to top 50, which is a lot more achievable than top 10, the rewards do improve because you start getting T4C. So if you're a mid-level player, getting into a top 50 alliance is a very worthwhile goal. So at the moment, I believe that the top 50 teams, in order to break into it reliably, you need to be doing high 60s, around 67, 68. It may be a little bit higher now because I do know that competition for top 50 and top 25 has increased a bit in the last several months. But generally high 60s, certainly low 70s, you are definitely getting top 50. I know the first time I did that, it was just a great feeling, because even though it's only a few hundred shards a week, 300 and then 500 for top 25, again, that adds up and it does make a difference, okay? So I think I have covered everything here. I do hope that this has been helpful to you. And I just want to finally say that the name of the game with AMs is to get into one, play it often, and challenge yourself, okay? I do recommend that you increase your difficulty to whatever you feel is appropriate at least once. You know, if it doesn't work out, you can always come back down, but I do think it is very worthwhile because, as I said, it is the best training ground in the game outside of LOC, and I would actually say it's a better training ground than LOC because, unlike LOC, you're doing AMs every week. So let me know if you have any questions. Do take care of yourselves until we speak again, and we will be in touch again soon.